Well, the hole in the wall gown. I mean, our business was narcotics, um, extortion. Uh, every once in a while, there was a killing, and we had all specialists in all different fields. We had who could raise the money. We had who had the connections with the dope. We had the Cubans up in Bell Boulevard in Queens where we copped. Um, Bottom line was, if they found out any of this, I was going to get popped.
Was it worth? Was it? Was it?
If
Was
I
it
had,
worth the risk?
if I had it to do all over again, I would do the exact same thing. You know, not really realizing what the consequence would be, because we kept it pretty well hidden, and until that sit down with Matty and his father and Funzi Thierry and Paul Castellano, that's when the shit hit the Westinghouse.
Alright, do this. Things got fucked up. The hole in the wall came in and then go into the Matty Rager thing.
Hold on, what?
Remember how we have the Matty Rager thing the way we have it now?
Right.
Do it again. Let's say the hole in the wall came to an end because Matty Rager said I didn't pay him the money, that whole story. And do the whole sit down story again. But started off with the hole in the wall gang ended because of.
Okay. Well, the demise of the hole in the wall gang was eventually Matty Rager was paying my uncle and Roy DeMeo $1,750 a week vig on a $250,000 loan. And what he did was, when my uncle was away and I was taking care of business up here for him, he said that he had given me $30,000 to knock down the loan, which was bullshit. Didn't happen. And he made a to-do of it because he wanted to get out of paying Roy and Nino. So we had this sit down with, I mean, it came to where the bosses of the Genovese family and the boss of the Gambino family had to sit down to straighten it out. And in straightening it out, that's when the hole in the wall got exposed, the hole in the wall gang. And after that, it was going to be like really, people were going to die. But I knew if I left, because I was going to be the number one target, if I left, I thought all the heat would come off him, and it did. So I packed my stuff up with my wife and my kids at 4 in the morning, and we just took off for California. And nobody knew, except one person, that I was going to do it and where I was going to go to.
Why did Matty turn on you?
I just said it. He
No,
wanted
but
to
it
knock
doesn't-
down the loan.
Right, so his friendship with you and the whole crew and all the money you guys were making, he sacrificed all that because he just didn't want to pay these guys a loan?
He wanted to get out of paying the $250,000. You see what happened was, because he wasn't paying, they were going to take over his restaurant.
Right, but
The
what,
bottom
what,
of the
it,
barrel.
what it implies is that he didn't give a shit about you or anybody else in the crew.
That was Matty.
That he was going to make a lie up just to fuck all of you.
Yeah,
so he wouldn't have to pay.
That's Matty. You know, that's how he was. You know, Matty was out for Matty, and everybody knew that. The whole crew knew that. And he finally figured out a little, deal where he could, disrupt everything. His Nino and Roy were going to take the restaurant. That's when the sit down happened. Was when Nino and Roy said, "Okay, you don't have the money. Now we want the restaurant," which was a very successful place in New Jersey. That's where he came up with that thing.
So you never had really any friends in this, right?
With Hole in the Wall?
Yeah.
No,
None of them were your friends.
No, I had 2. Well, 3 if you include Cheryl. But the one that I trusted, only one. Only one. The other one was Henry Borelli, but, there was an incident with him, after Danny Grillo got killed, where he wanted to meet me to make sure he wasn't going to get whacked because he was in business with Danny. And he met me in Manhattan at this place, and when I drove by, I was looking for a parking spot. When I drove by, I just saw him outside, like with his hands behind his back, just standing there. And when I walked up to him, I said, "What are you doing standing out here?" I said, "You look like a cigar store Indian." He said, "Well, I figured if somebody was going to whack me, I wanted it to be you," which told me he didn't trust me. So, which meant I couldn't trust him. But the one person I trusted, that was it. I had no doubts about it. I mean, you could pull out his fingernails and he wouldn't say anything. So
Now, why didn't Matty get whacked by one of you? After he ratted you, it sort of.
we
Ratted you.
couldn't. His father was connected with the Genovese family, and in order to do that kind of hit, you had to get the okay from Paul Castellano and from Funzi Thierry. I mean, it was just, if Matty would have got killed, that would have been it. They would have just cleaned house on us.
But were you all surprised that he turned on the whole crew?
No, that was Matty. That's how he was. We used him to raise money. He was a tremendous money machine. And he knew what to do with the blow, the coke, in New York. Someone else knew what to do with the Quaaludes in New York. I mean, that, like I said, everybody specialized in something.
What was your specialty?
Organization.
Amazing. You could be that fucking organized.
What?
It's amazing to me that you could be that organized.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I didn't have the Alzheimer's yet. Yeah.
All right.
No, that's great. What did your uncle do? Like, you just all of a sudden your family disappeared. What did he think?
What he to save face, he said that I stole $250,000 of his and left. And in reality, we got to California. I couldn't sell the car because Matty Rager had the title on it. So I got a $40,000 car, and we wound up going on welfare, until I put my shit together in California. And that was a whole nother trip. Yeah.
Right, but that was the start of your uncle wanting to kill you, right?
Yeah, he would have, actually he would have had to. In order for him to be telling people that I stole $250,000 off him, if I ever wanted to patch things up and come back, he would have had it just to save face. People would have said, well, he stole $250,000 for you. How come you got him back?
But the real question is, like, what you're saying is that Matty Rager put you in such a squeeze play that you had to go against. You had to leave all your friends and your family. I mean, what was your relationship with Nino at the time?
Well, I didn't have to leave my family. I took my family with me.
No, I'm saying.
Oh, that family.
That family. You had to leave the family and all your people because Matty did this one play on you, and you knew your uncle was going to put a hit out on you. I mean, how did you feel that you'd never see your uncle again and he was going to whack you?
Not well. I didn't feel good about that. I mean, he was going to have to whack me.
But what did he do before that time in order for you to say, fuck him? Because that's what you basically
Well, after the sit-down we had over the
right.
Matty Rager thing, the $30,000, him and Roy were driving me back. I was in the back seat, and it wasn't a comfortable feeling, especially when he said, if you weren't my nephew, they would have found you in the street already. So right then, I knew that he was going to, he was capable of doing that. And then he didn't believe, number one, that Matty gave me the $30,000. It wasn't about that. It was about the hole in the wall gang, because he told me flat out, I don't believe this cocksucker gave you the money. And I said, well, thanks for that, because he didn't. Because one thing I did do was take care of his business real well. I mean, when he came back from Florida, we'd sit down upstairs in my apartment, in my kitchen, and go over every pickup, and if it was off by $2, we had to do it again, which took all night. It was like a 4 or 5 hour deal to go through all the paperwork, and it was a trip. That time in my life, it was like, I thought my whole thing was just shot. I didn't know what to do in California, And then I just would take so much money out of the welfare check and just start going to Los Angeles to see if I could get something going. And I had never been there in my life. And it worked out. I got my organizational skills back together.
Yeah. But when you, wasn't it also that he passed you, you didn't get made, and then he passed you over, that made you sort of take a stance against Nino?
It wasn't so much a stance against Nino. It was like when I didn't get made, and I saw who did get made, and I had done work. I had been out on the street, with guns and hand grenades, and these guys didn't know how to wipe their ass. They didn't know how to step on a cockroach, but because of the businesses that their fathers had, they got made because if they didn't, there's a good chance that they're going to swing over, another family's going to try and grab that business. So they basically got made for money, which is supposed to be totally against the rules. You're supposed to have done work in the street before you could get made. So when that happened, I remember we were walking across the street going to the Veterans and Friends, and he just told me, he said, don't worry about it. They pass you over, but you'll get made eventually. And I don't think they passed me over. It was my uncle that didn't put me up. I mean, they got Roy DeMeo made, He just whined and cried for 2 months when the books got opened to get made. Yeah, there was definitely, I felt, definitely that he just passed me over because he didn't want me to have a crew. So I put my own crew together.
That crew is...
The Hole in the Wall gang.
Can you say it like that? That crew was?
Yeah. See, from when you said, then he passed me over because he didn't want me to have a crew. And
Okay.
that's what...
Well, when I got passed over, getting made, he told me, Paulie, his exact thing was, he said, Paulie says you were too young. And there was guys younger than me getting made, So I knew right then it wasn't Paulie. I knew it was Nino that didn't want me to get made because he didn't want me to have my own crew. So what I did was I put my own crew together, the Hole in the Wall gang.
But also, at that time, you weren't really in charge of the DeMeo crew. You were
Just wanted them into the Hole in the Wall gang.